Okay, I'm going to go on to my next question because I'm taking too much time. I mean, it was actually the first question, and this is about physical inspections. Is there a requirement under the law that physical inspections be done before January 1 of the effective date? And I sent that to legal counsel and I didn't get a response.
I'm so sorry, I did not hear that question. Apologies.
Is there a requirement under the law that the physical inspections be done before January 1 of the effective date?
No. And actually, recent information from STC meetings indicates that the STC's interpretation is that all physical inspections must be completed after January 1 of the effective date. That's a draft letter that they have not actually sent out yet, but they were talking about it at their last meeting that I was in. So no, there is no requirement in the law or anywhere else about the dates that the inspection must be done. I think the way that had been done previously was again within the discretion of the board. They were saying that because the status of the property is as of January 1, that they wanted the inspections to have been done prior to that, but there is no law or decision or case law that I can find that says it has to be done within a certain time period.
Okay.
I would think that probably the cutoff date would be the certification date of those values, but there's nothing that says that that is the case.
I mean, to me, it's logical to have done it before the notices go out. And
with that in mind, what about if a taxpayer sent in an appraisal, and we probably want to get assessments input on this, and the assessment, the appraisal have comparable sales that are outside of January 1, 2023?
So that has to do with the appraisal date. So an appraisal can be done anytime, but it's the valuation date that we're concerned about. So if you have an appraisal done in June, but your evaluation date is, April 1, because that's when your loan was supposed to go into effect, then that appraisal doesn't not count because it was done a month later. It has to do with the valuation date itself. So we get a lot of appraisals.
I'm talking about comparable sales. I'm not talking about the effective date of the appraisal.
The comparable sales do have a cutoff. It's not the same thing as the physical inspection cutoff.
Yeah, and it does have to be before January 1, correct?
Yes, so the comparable sales do have to be before January 1.
Okay. I think we've been going with that.
So the taxpayer is required to have comps prior to January 1, but the assessment can come back and take photos after January 1.
Yes, because those two are not the same thing. The comp set the market rate, and then the valuation of the property sets the specifics for that property within that market rate. That's how they determine if it's fair, average, good condition, any improvements that have been made. They also, that's also pulled through like permitting and construction information and things. So those two things go with each other to help create the evidence that you base true market value on, but they are not the same thing and they don't have the same kind of restrictions.
Okay, can we get an assessment to speak in or add their thoughts on this conversation?
Yeah, I this is Eric with Assessment Department. Comparable sales do not have to be prior to January 1. A January 2nd sale is a very good indication of what the market value is of the subject property on January 1st, the day before. So,
what about a March the 15th sale?
I think you would do a time adjustment like you would on any sale that is away from the January 1st date. But yes, why would you not look at any adequate comparable sale?
Well, I want to just make it clear for the taxpayers to know that their appraisals will not be kicked out because comparable sales were not used between January 1, 2021 and January 1, 2023. Because there's been cases where assessment has said these sales were outside of the date of January 1, 2023. And now you're saying all sales are
Well, I
open.
think as you know, as an appraiser, the further outside of any date that, if you have the appraisal date, in our case, it's January 1st, the further you get away from that date, the less reliable that comp becomes. Yes, you should be doing time adjustments to them, but those time adjustments are estimates. And so that's where the problems arise. But, and it's the same philosophy as if a comparable sale is considerably larger or considerably small or just considerably different. At what point do you say that's too different? It's a judgment issue, and adjustments have to be made for time the same way adjustments have to be made for size.
Okay, so what is the cutoff date or the certification date from assessment?
We will use sales by certain dates, but I would not apply those same dates to an appraisal done by a certified appraiser.
Well, I just want to be clear so we're not rejecting a comparable sale from a taxpayer's appraiser because their date is.
I think the board can judge for themselves whether that is a adequate sale, the same way that you do as in a professional appraisal practice. You decide whether that sale is too far outside of the time frame.
I'm looking at the statute now on that, and it says regarding comparable sales, it says comparable means that, and then the next thing is such sale was closed at a date relevant to the property valuation. It doesn't say before or after January 1, it just says at a date relevant.
So who decides relevant? What if somebody gave you something that was in 2020 for a 2023 assessment? Who
As an
determines relevant?
appraiser, what would you decide?
Well, I've seen where assessment has kicked them out. That's what I'm asking.
Well, we may do so. I mean, it's always a judgment issue. We may do so. We may exclude a given sale because of time. We may exclude a given sale because of distance from the subject property. But depending upon the situation, while, for example, distance from the subject property, good appraisal practice is to find comparables that are close to the subject property. There are, however, instances where there aren't good recent sales close to the subject property, and you have to go further out distance wise. What's an adequate distance wise? It's a judgment call. And I would argue time is the same way.
Yeah, so there's a statute on that also.
Yeah.
It said comparable properties are not more than 1 mile from the site of the disputed property, except where no similar properties exist within 1 mile.
And that's exactly what I was
the nearest
suggesting.
comparable.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's
Okay,
the law.
So read the law about the size, the difference in size.
Okay,
Since
it says,
you have all the statutes.
yeah, so such properties shall be within 500 square feet in size of the disputed property and resemble the disputed property in age, floor plan, number of rooms, and other relevant characteristics.
So the question for Eric, does assessment always meet those requirements?
We certainly attempt to. But I would argue too that still, if there aren't adequate sales of within those parameters, the only thing you can do is go further out in size or distance or time.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It doesn't say that specifically in the statute, but I know that's been done.
Yeah, I mean, it's choose the best sales, and that is everyone's goal.
I guess I have an issue where you want to hold certain things to statutes, and then sometimes now you're saying you're open to just choose whatever you want to do, or go outside the boundaries on this, or go outside the boundaries on that.
No, I'm not saying going
you
out.
can't.
I mean, yeah,
I know, because I think we've seen instances where there wasn't anything. Well, I don't know. I'm going to take that back, because I'm not sure if there were no comparables within 500s.
I think as soon as you say and it's the same difficulty, it becomes more of an issue with commercial properties, for example. Finding a comparable commercial property might be, and sales of a comparable commercial property might be more difficult, and you're going to have to expand what the expand the definition of comparable, or whether it's the time, distance, or what have you, in order to find something that indicates market value. I mean, that's the bottom line, is we're all trying to arrive at market value using our best professional opinions.